What's going on, everyone? Boylon here, and in today's video I want to talk to you guys more about balanced PvP and some of the top characters that I use in the game mode when I'm playing seriously. Now, I know PvP is in a very contentious spot right now with the people who enjoy it, like myself, or those who hate it and wanted to die in a fire and go away. So I won't feel bad for anyone who doesn't want to watch this because of the topic, but for those who are interested in knowing how to improve your odds in winning in balanced draft, then this is the video for you. We're going to be going over some of my top picks, and this is by no means an exhaustive list. I will also say that from the start, this won't be in any particular order, as this isn't a ranked list as of yet. Perhaps in the future, if they decide to add more to PvP beyond just milestone rewards, I'll do more serious PvP ranking and strategy videos. But for the moment, it's just going to be a bit of fun. So without further ado, let's get started. And before I get started on the list, I just want to point out a few who aren't going to be making it because 9 or 10 times out of 10, they're most likely going to get banned for being overpowered. And anyone who does some form of PvP already know who this is going to be. But it's going to be Phoenix here, Black Bolt, Ebony Maw, and Ultron. Now, if any of these do make it past the ban, it probably would be Ultron, but I don't think that any of these characters need any explanation as to why you'd want to ban them. There are a few others who might be on my list who still get occasionally banned or rejected, but the ones mentioned are definitely the first to be caught. So my top 10 list won't be including any of these characters, just as a heads up. So let's actually get started now. And first on the list, like I said, in no particular order, but it's going to be Mr. Sinister. So, again, he probably doesn't need much explanation either, but the fact that he can clone any character on the field, and, you know, in PvP, actually, it's very rare that you run across tanks. So if you do, for some reason, manage to actually get Mr. Sinister, then usually he has a pretty good pick of the field in terms of getting a clone out. Now, of course, there's many. I'm not going to be talking about counters and things like that, as there's plenty of counters for Mr. Sinister and other characters. But if you do manage to get him on your team, that gives you a significant advantage over the others, especially if you clone a really good character that can really help you out. So he is definitely making this list here. He is seen quite a lot, but he is also rejected occasionally, and I would say probably banned maybe as a 4th pick. So normally Phoenix, Black Bolt, and Ebony Maw are almost always banned when I play, and then people, you know, have a choice to make on that 4th ban, either Emma Frost, Mr. Sinister, or a few other characters as well. Normally there are quite a few others that are ban worthy, so if you do happen to get Mr. Sinister in your team, you won't go wrong by using him. And you know, a good strategy that some people use as well is that keeping sort of your character that you think might get banned, keep them for the very end after the rejection so you can pull them in later if they're still available. So Mr. Sinister does make this list for the clone. Good support character as well, can do a little bit of healing, but largely for the clone here. Now, next on the list is going to be Magneto, the master of magnetism. So, the reason why he's often picked quite a bit in PvP is because of his magnetic vortex, the ability to just bring everyone together and also apply blind to everyone. It's unavoidable, cannot be counterattacked, and really counters a lot of melee-type characters that have turn 1 attacks that could be potentially blinded. Very good character, sometimes combined with other mutant-type characters as well, or Brotherhood characters that would speed him up. I actually think it's maybe a little bit better to maybe potentially have him by himself. That way he's not getting too much speed, and he's actually going behind some of the other characters so you can blind them after. But it really depends on the strategy that you're employing for the battle and what other characters you have on your team with him. So yeah, very good character, seen him quite often, not usually banned, so you can normally get him. I guess it depends on your roster and who you're playing up against. For me, I don't see him banned that often, and he is used quite occasionally. More than quite, I don't know why I said quite occasionally. It is, he is picked somewhat frequently. So Magneto is making this list for my top 10. Good old Loki. He is going to be making this list as well. Very solid character for PvP for the mind control ability to apply defense down to the primary target for 2 turns, and obviously getting some extra damage. There is a potential, usually doesn't happen like it might in Arena and things like that, but you normally don't kill them right off the bat, even with with 2 mind controls, but it's usually you're able to do quite a bit of chunk of damage, and this does go well with other characters that I'm going to bring up later in the list as to why he is very useful in PvP, so I'm not going to spoil it quite yet. You guys might be able to guess who might be coming up later in the list, but yeah, Loki's a very solid character for this. Normally, he doesn't survive too long past the mind control, so whether or not you get to make use of the mirror images or not may or may not happen. But I do also like balanced PvP, now that we're on the topic, that you get 7775 for all the skills, so it's a really great way to also test out newer characters, especially in PvP too. So yeah, Loki does make this list largely for the mind control. Alright, and you probably saw this one coming, but Hela is also making the top 10 list, kind of foreshadowing there with Loki previously, and a lot of that is for the Death Knives ability. So depending on who you're actually pairing on your team with Hela, if you do happen to get the Loki-Hela combo, this can be quite devastating with the defense down and spreading it to the entire team. Now, this can be compounded with other debuffs, which I will be mentioning also after this in the list as well, which can really devastate the enemy team. So Death Knives is super powerful, spreading all the negative effects that you can possibly get before Hela's turn. And yeah, really great character. Obviously, you still have Greg, you know, the reason why Hela in general is so good. So if they do end up killing him, then they're getting 10% speed bar knocked down off of them as well. There are characters that can take advantage of this though. Carnage is an obvious counter to Hela, or any of the symbiotes combined together with Hela is quite the counter to that. But this video isn't going to be talking about character counters. Maybe in the future we'll be doing something like that. But just another character that's really popular in PvP as well, and that's Hela. And since we're on a train talking about Loki and Hela, I'm going to bring up X-23 here. So this is someone who's definitely going to get past the ban. No, people aren't going to really be considering her much. She is a bit of left. I'm really bad with baseball analogies. I was gonna say left of center, or you know, out there. You know, people aren't usually going to pick her. She has become a bit more popular with some content creators doing PvP videos with her, and that's because of this relentless assault. So that's the ability block here that you can apply. And this is really, and not to mention, she's really quick. She has a speed of 115. Even with Loki, I'm pretty sure, depending on the combination of characters, assuming Emma Frost isn't on the enemy team, I'm pretty sure X-23 actually runs before Hela. So if you were to run Loki, X-23, and Hela, I'm pretty sure it goes Loki first, X-23 with the ability block, and then you can actually spread that ability block all around to everyone else. I have done this before on PvP matches, and it's completely crippling. So if you do manage to get this combo, it is really amazing. In general, X-23 is actually a pretty decent pick. She also does get turn bar when enemies drop below 50% health. 50% health as well, and then of course you get the 7775 stats here, so you are getting additional speed bar. I think it's a total, how much is it here? 40% speed bar when they drop below 50% health, so that's quite a bit. So she is a pretty decent standalone PvP character as well for that, so she is making the list for that reason here. Now, since we're talking about ability block, we can't go anywhere without talking about Baron Zemo. Now, there is a slightly higher chance than most that he may get banned. Now, if you're like me and have Baron Zemo as your avatar icon, then obviously they know that you have Baron Zemo, so if you are doing any Baron Zemo PvP, don't have your Baron Zemo icon showing like I do, and normally that's when I get banned because of that. But his premeditation is, not to mention, well, we'll talk about his passive, but his premeditation, which he gets to start his ultimate here at the beginning, it does an ability block for 1 turn and slow for 2 turns, and it rebounds to a bunch of characters, so it's very likely you could actually slow half the team or more than half the team on the first go, and it's crazy. It gives you another charge as well after you get the blow up from the passive, which does a fair bit of damage actually across the board. He gets defense up and immunity on spawn, and then it clears positive effects as well. So he is a great counter to characters like Shuri, who actually goes first and applies the defense up, and then his passive will just clear everything. So it's pretty crazy actually. As far as singular characters go, he has a lot going for him. So you probably would want to consider a ban on Baron Zemo, or at the very least a rejection, depending on your team makeup and who you're facing. But yeah, Baron Zemo is a very strong character. Also goes really well with that Loki-Hela combination, like I said, so he goes pretty quickly. Pretty sure he goes before Hela as well, so that you can land that ability block and spread those debuffs to everyone else as well. So yeah, Baron Zemo is a bonkers character who makes this list. And now we're at my favorite squirrel friend. Squirrel Girl is going to make this list for me, and I might get a bit of flack from this. I know there's a lot of people out there that really dislike Squirrel Girl for some reason, but she is going to be making this list for me, and I'll tell you why. We'll go through the kit all here. Even her basic, you know, gives offense down to the person with the highest speed bar, and since it's 775, 7775. This is always going to apply, and so that's really good there. Eat nuts, you know, it does some healing, and it clears all negative effects from all allies when you're using in PvP, and this can be really good because there's a lot of characters out there that can either, like Hela, who can spread negative status effects, any of the symbiotes, or just Blind from Magneto. You know, she can heal a lot of different things, different debuffs, and it's on a low cooldown here, so I've used her a lot in PvP and had a lot of fun with her, and won quite frequently with her. Squirrel Army isn't actually nothing, or sorry, it is pretty good as well, because it applies bleed and offense down to all enemies, and it does a surprising amount of damage when you're using her in balanced PvP. Since everyone's roughly around the same power level, she kind of excels a little bit more in this game mode than she might elsewhere. So Squirrel Girl is getting this list as a support character, almost never banned, so if you need someone who can cleanse and who can do offense downs and bleeds, she's actually really good for that. Alright, and another newer character to the game, Emma Frost. She's going to be on this list as well. Now, I have seen her also banned, you know, on occasion on the 4th slot here, alongside characters like Mr. Sinister and a few others as well. So if she does make it past the ban list and past the rejection list, then you're doing pretty well if you happen to manage to pick her up. So she does have obviously the minus 10% speed to all enemies. This is really good. Her survivability is also really good, and just all her ability to clear, to cleanse, and apply slow to all enemies, and turn the tables, which is the mind control thing. So you're mind controlling 2 enemies, very similar to Loki, but it's even better. I hate when my scrolling bar does this, but it applies blind and mind controls 2 characters, not just enemies, but either enemy or ally. So it's going to do a huge chunk of damage here. Not to mention, it's going to clear any positive status effects on the enemy at this time. So yeah, great solid character for PvP if you happen to get her. Like I said, if you really want to get, you know, some really coveted characters, make sure you pull them after the rejection period. That way you have a better chance of getting them if someone else already hasn't picked them. So yeah, Emma Frost is joining the list here as well. Alright, and rounding off near to the end of this list, Taskmaster. So another solid singular character or standalone character. His incendiary arrow here attacks all enemies, apply blind to the primary target and two random secondary targets. I keep forgetting that you get the upgraded version as well, and applying bleed to all enemies. So this does a lot of damage, and it can blind a couple of characters as well. He very strong solo character, has the adaptive assault, that's the special here that can apply stun, and offense down to other characters as well. So yeah, very strong solo character if you're needing someone to do that role. Again, this is in no particular order, this list, so Taskmaster is very strong, and if you need someone to do what he does, then pick Taskmaster. And before we get to my last pick, there are a few honorable mentions that I'd like to bring up, even though this isn't a true ranked top 10 list. There are some other characters that I was going to add to the list, but they are not making it officially, so they are... Let's scroll down the list here and find them. So Red Skull, another great character. The reason why I consider him is because of his summon. Actually, he gets 30% speed bar to the whole team when he summons, which can actually be quite good in a turn-based, you know, speed-based game, especially in PvP. Everything can be decided kind of in the first 2 turns, so he's really strong for that reason there. Another one, of course, is Captain Marvel. Very bursty, has a lot of strong damage with the binary attack, rather, her ultimate, and she outputs a lot of damage, and her survivability is pretty decent. And another one, which I think he's on my list. So, no, he's not on my... Is he on my list? Yeah, Rhino. So the reason why Rhino makes the honorable mentions is because of his ability to counter blind. So characters like Magneto and Taskmaster, for example, this is a good counter pick to any characters like that, because he's going to shake it off of everyone on the team and give him turn bar as well. So he's a solid counter pick if you see someone picking characters like Taskmaster or Magneto early on. So definitely consider Rhino for that. And then let's get to our final pick. Alright, so if this was a ranked list, he wouldn't necessarily be here at the top, but Symbiote Spider-Man is the final character that I'm going to be talking about today. He is a very well-rounded character for PvP as well. A lot of his kit, you know, it doesn't need any explaining. He's got defense down, he's got bleeds, he can extend debuffs, web slam, that his ultimate stuns characters and puts 2 turns of slow on everyone. He dodges a fair bit, especially in the hands of the AI. You know, he's a very well-rounded character. Now, if you're using him alongside other debuffers like Loki, Hela, X23, anything like that, his spider slingshot, in terms of his turn bar, normally he goes after these characters, so he has a good way to extend those if you need them, you know, extending things like ability block, defense down and slow, and things like that. So really good way to just the nail in the coffin on a lot of characters if you happen to get all these characters in succession. So Symbiote Spider-Man, great character, ending the list here for us today. And yeah, so Symbiote Spider-Man. And that's all for my balanced draft PvP list for today. Like I said, this wasn't a from worst to best kind of list, and it isn't ranked, but any of the characters I mentioned in the video are very strong characters that you should consider when drafting your team. Some of them do really well together more than others, especially a combo of like Loki, Hela, X23, and Symbiote Spider-Man is a really crippling combo, which I've used on occasion. But any of these characters are really solid as well. There are also a few others that I didn't bring up, which are also used a decent amount, like Shuri, Minerva, and Yo-Yo. But I just wanted to share the characters that I see most frequently when I've been PvPing over the last few milestones. I know it's a very unpopular opinion, but I do kind of hope that they do a bit more than the casual rewards for the game modes that exist currently. But I know addressing the overall time spent, perhaps through the drafting process, will need to be addressed. But I wasn't very happy with the quick draft mode that they had, was it about a week ago or so? Because to me it felt like blind arena matches, whereas balance is, well, much more balanced. I have no doubts that they'll continue to make adjustments to the game mode through the feedback, and maybe it can eventually be something that everyone will be happy with one day. But that's all from me for today, and if you guys enjoyed the video, then please smash that like button down below and let me know how you guys feel about balanced draft or just PvP in general and what kind of role you think it should play in the game. Thanks everyone for watching today, and of course, until next time guys, stay safe and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.